good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are on the planet. We're at the Cannabis Expo in Johannesburg, and we're going to talk about sort of the health side of cannabis, which is a bit of a minefield. It's an amazing part, an amazing space that we're in, but there's a lot of sort of myths and a lot of figuring out that's going on at the moment. So I have an amazing doctor here. If you'd like to introduce yourself and just tell us exactly what you do.
Hey, great. I'm Dr. Gallow, Dr. Shiksha Gallow. So I'm a medical scientist in clinical pathology. So that's diagnosis of diseases and all of that. So I'm doing a lot of research in the cannabis space. Yeah, I'm a medical director, of Biodata, which is one of the companies that I run. Yeah.
So tell us about firstly how you got into cannabis. Was it a natural sort of thing, or did you wake up one morning and go, I'm going to be in the cannabis industry? How did it happen?
Interesting question. So firstly, my background, just a little bit of my background. I'm from the pharmaceutical side, so I used to do a lot of clinical trials for the HIV vaccine study, PrEP studies, tenofovir gel, FAC studies, so I was involved quite a lot there. And then look, I've been working quite a lot in pharmaceuticals, and I see the benefits patients don't really have. A lot of health benefits, but medicine is needed and the pharmaceutical or allopathic medicine is required. And then I started researching a little bit more about more natural medicines and healing. And then I found this wonderful plant that has all these exciting benefits, dug deeper into the medical science about everything, and then I was fascinated. So that's how I started researching more and getting more involved, learning more as well.
So there's a lot of confusion at the moment about where things are at. Obviously the CBD and THC, different parts of the plant, different effects. Firstly, what's your opinion on the balance of the two together?
Look, there's for various diseases we're looking at different ratios, different dosing and all of that, but a 2-to-1 ratio is what's really, really good, with 1 being the THC, obviously 2 being the CBD. We found great results with that ratio.
And great results for all kinds of conditions, or does it depend on what you're trying to treat?
So depending on what you're trying to treat, as you said, we're still all learning. There's a lot of trial and error. We're working, looking with actual theory with certain cannabinoids for certain diseases and how that would work and blend. For example, if I can just give a quick example, for depression, a patient can't have too much of the indica strain, more on the sativa, not too much of the THC. You need to balance it more of the CBD. If you give them too much of a certain strain as well, they can go into deeper depression. So we are looking into the intricacies of the science between certain cannabinoids and actual dosing. And just to add, there's no actual test that exists where you can measure your cannabinoid and my cannabinoids, so I'll know where to start dosing. So we're trying to also look at those sort of things.
I think it seems to be like a more homeopathic approach where every person is different and different dosing works for different people. But I was having a conversation with somebody earlier about it's the same with benzos. You might have a recommended dose, but each person has a different body weight, different metabolism. So, even if you've got a recommended dose for a more sort of pharmaceutical product, it still doesn't mean it's going to be the same for everybody. And I think it's very much about the same thing with CBD and THC. Would you agree with that?
Yes, no, for sure. You got it, hit the nail on the head. It's exactly what it is. And each patient's different. Each age of the patient's different. So, for example, if someone's got diabetes plus cancer, we need to change it slightly different that when you're treating someone with just cancer. If they've got high blood pressure, it adds something else, and we need to monitor the blood pressure and make sure the blood pressure doesn't drop too low. If I can just quickly add there, because your endocannabinoid system actually balances, it results in homeostasis, which is balance. So if we're giving a patient cannabinoids and then we're trying to balance their blood pressure and they're taking the pharmaceutical blood pressure, means it can drop too low, that patient has to be monitored by a doctor.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges at the moment is, we're all reading about CBD and THC, and we can take so much stuff off YouTube and Google, but ultimately when we're taking any kind of medication, no matter what it is, we kind of need guidance. Whether it's a homeopath or a doctor, we're trying to figure this out, and a lot of the doctors are a bit skeptical about it because they don't have the research. So what would you advise your average consumer who's heard about CBD? They want to use it for pain or anxiety or whatever it is. How would they go about that? Because dosing is one of the biggest challenges at the moment.
Yeah, look, the CBD market, as you can see here, is quite flooded. Everyone's selling CBD. So if it's just CBD on its own, it's quite safe, but make sure it's a reputable supplier. It's someone that information is on the bottle. The person giving it to you needs to explain how to take it, the dosage. That's the first thing. My patients, I would just tell them, try to avoid backstreet dealers, people in a little brown packet and giving you that you don't know, running away, contact me, don't contact me if you need, if I can't give you advice. So that is my advice to patients. Make sure you understand the product, you know who you're buying it from, you have trust in that product. And then the dosing guidelines, they should always call it microdosing. We always say start slow and then, continue. So I'll also start low and then go slow. So that will be my advice, but seek medical advice as well. Try to find a doctor that actually knows something about cannabis or can refer you to somebody that is understanding cannabis. If you're in a lot of pharmaceutical meds, please be careful. Warfarin interacts, high blood pressure meds interact, clobazam interacts. There are a lot of drug interactions we found, so just rather get your information from a reputable source is all I can really give advice to patients.
Well, also my understanding is when you take CBD, it can have an impact on your liver, which is processing other benzos or other drugs, so that it can increase the effect of those. And so you should be careful with that, my understanding is. So you should rather take it orally and let it absorb into the bloodstream than it go into the stomach and the liver. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Obviously, you don't want. What I normally do is we normally try to wean patients off. So if you don't want to, if you try to treat blood pressure, obviously you'll keep them on the pharmaceutical meds. We call it weaning them off. So you have to manage it. You can't give a patient more CBD or more cannabinoids, plus they're on like 20 different meds. The whole point of them going into the cannabinoid is to wean off other medicines. So you need that guidance, but you're 100% right. There's a lot of myths, and I know there's an article just gone up by the FDA now. CBD does not damage your liver. It will not damage anything. It works with the endocannabinoid system with your receptors. It depends how you work in getting reputable doses, reputable products, and that's what's important.
So, playing devil's advocate, is it all hype, or is CBD here to stay, and is it real?
Look, I think it's definitely here to stay, as you can see, and the more that we scientists find out, and research is very exciting. There are benefits here, so we need to just guide patients. There's a medicine side, and then there's the natural side where it's just a supplement. There's two different sides. What I'm researching the actual medical benefits of it reversing conditions or assisting to replace pharmaceutical meds that are dangerous. That's where I'm coming from. So certain NSAIDs cannot give a patient the relief that cannabis can. We found that, and that's where I'm trying to look at that, to call it a medicine and look not more the supplement side, but making a medical claim so doctors can prescribe, but they feel confident. It says, hey, here's published research, here's evidence, these are the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now we can make an informed decision as a doctor. That's what I'm trying to do.
And how much research is being done here? I know that clinical trials are underway in America. I think in New Mexico there's quite a lot of stuff going on there. How are you're obviously doing some research. Is there much research happening here, or are we relying on the internationals to drive it forward?
So there is a lot of case control studies that are happening here, which is what people are trying to do within the legislation. We have applied and looking for formal clinical trials. I'm working with some doctors in Canada as well, and in Israel, where we're trying to obviously synergize what we're doing, and not if they're doing something and I'm doing something in my silo, but work together. So clinical trials will be on the way next year for sure. However, it costs a lot of money if you want to do randomized clinical trials. The cheaper version is the case control studies, observational studies. The randomized clinical control studies is what we want to do and go, but we're going to start small scale and then build up. So we are going to be looking at that next year. We got some funding partners that we're looking to assist us with the funding aspect.
And for those who are not sure about it, just to clarify, you cannot overdose on CBD or THC, although I have been told you can overdose on THC if you smoke 40,000 joints. But am I correct? It's non-toxic and you can't overdose.
Yes, you're 100% correct. I also did a talk yesterday where we tried to look at a lot of studies, look at a lot of patients. Nobody has ever died of a cannabis overdose using the plant. Synthetic cannabis is a different story. I'm talking about from the plant itself. It's extremely safe. However, make sure that you're getting it from a reputable source. They're not mixing it with engine oil or cheap nonsense that's making patients sick. And that has been giving our plant a bad name. But you're 100% correct. Nobody has ever overdosed. We also try to do some research with monkeys to try to see if they can overdose. And the toxicity levels, they just slept for a couple of days, woke up very happy with a 0% toxicity. So no, there is definitely no toxicity that we have found.
Yeah, it's fascinating times. What's your prediction of the South African industry and how big it's going to be? We obviously have a global reputation for having amazing strains and amazing cannabis, amazing climate. Where do you think the industry is going to be in the next 5 years?
I think the industry is going to just boom as more and more research comes out. Everyone's trying to get on board, and I think that's the exciting part. The legislation will also dictate how big the industry gets in South Africa, and I think that for us is quite important. We're sitting with amazing strains. I mean, the Durban Poison, Pondoland, Landrace strain I spoke about in my talk. So we need to keep everything within South Africa. Let's do our own research with our own people. Let's use it to uplift our own people. people, to uplift our economic situation, because it can help us. And I think let's also use it to help our people with regards to health benefits, access to medical from the public health sector, and that's where I think our focus should be, is uplifting our people and bringing public health out to guys. Yeah.
Especially on the ground. I know guys in the townships growing in their backyard 10 plants, putting their kids through school. I think that's the biggest challenge, making sure that those guys and the guys in the Eastern Cape who have been growing for decades still benefit from this legislation when it changes.
Yes, exactly, and we need to also try and protect that. So we're also trying to work with certain forums. I'm part of the PSC for government as well, where we're trying to help. How can we protect them? Do they need their own regulations so we can protect them? Because that's putting food on the table. How do we actually make them little entrepreneurs in their little areas and villages to uplift their own communities? So that is where my passion lies. And then bringing this medicine out to the people. They let them make their own medicine, so it doesn't cost a fortune. These people can't afford medical aid, remember. So we can change our entire socio-economic status by empowering the people that have been doing this for years. They are the experts on the field. Let's use that RKS knowledge and then work together. That is the way I'd love to see things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly has a huge potential to have positive benefits to our economy and our population. So congratulations on all the work you're doing. Keep going, and thank you for your time.
Thanks
and
a
enjoy
lot.
the rest of the
Thanks for
expo.
everything.
Okay, take care.